All right, welcome back. In this video, we are going to go from a single voice sample, which sounds like this.
Someday the world will be everything we dream.
To adding 5 parts of harmony vocals to the stack, and it sounds like this.
Someday the world will be everything we dream. Everything we dream. Everything we dream.
And I'm going to show you how we do that using Audimee. Now, Audimee is a voice changing tool that allows you to convert vocals, going from an original. If you have a clean, dry vocal, you can change the quality of that voice from one to another based on some included voice models. You can also isolate vocals. There's some tools in here to clean up your vocals, to remove the instruments and the backgrounds, and also to remove noise and to remove reverb and echo. That is for the sake of getting a nice clean vocal to input, but you will do your best work with this if you start with a very nicely recorded, clean and dry vocal in mono. Now, the page that I'm really excited about is the harmonies, and I'm going to show you quite a bit about how I approach this to create harmony stacks off of a sample. And that is not changing the original sample voice, but this is an alternative to using something like Melodyne or the built-in tools that you've got in Cubase or Logic that allow you to shift an original vocal up and down in pitch while retaining the key. This also allows you to impart a different vocal quality or a different vocal model to it, giving you a more realistic vocal sound for your track. And you can use it outright if you're doing certain kinds of music, or you could use it to create a demo for creating something before you go into recording it for real. The other thing is you can blend those voices together using the mixed voices. You could take a couple of the included models and blend them together. And in my voices section, you could take your own voice, give it recordings of your own voice, and create one of these models so you could convert maybe a sample into your own voice. So that is another fun thing you can do with it. Different kinds of vocal transforming tools have been around for years using formant shifting and pitch shifting, and it's gotten better and better. But with the added realism of voice models, it just takes it to another step and makes it another useful tool. I'm going to show you a little bit about the Convert Vocals page before we move on to showing you how to create harmonies from these things. And I use this to audition the singers that I want to use for my harmonies. The first thing I'm going to do is drop in my sample. Now, this sample comes from Lander, and it is from the Lo-Fi Pop Vocals pack, and it is called Everything. The Everything Dry key G major 85 beats per minute sample. I'm going to drop it in here and play it for you.
Someday the world will be everything we dream. Everything we dream. Everything we dream.
Now, despite the fact that it's labeled G major, everything about this sample sounds to me, and running it through a couple of detectors for the key, it's not in G major, it's in D major. So we do have the option to do a little bit of tuning on this. I don't think it really needs it, but for the sake of just showing you how these settings work, I'm going to put in D major. Despite the fact that the label on the sample says G major, it's in D major. And here you can add a little pitch correction just like this. So if you sang the sample yourself, then you might want to add a little pitch correction to it. Certainly I would. You can also add a little bit of vibrato, which will, on held notes, add a little bit of modulation to the end of it. We don't need that here. We don't need this here either. There is also a pitch editor that you can go into. I'll load it so you can see what it looks like. It converts it into a look that is kind of like other pitch editors and, along the lines of Melodyne or other pitch correction tools. And you will wind up with these blobs that you can move up and down. I'm not going to worry about that now or in this video. This pitch editor is also available for your harmony vocals as well. Now, an important setting in here is the pitch shift. So if you're going to convert from, say, a female vocal to a male vocal, you might want to knock this down 12 steps, which would be taking it down an octave. Or if you want to, just change the key or maybe move something into a little bit better register for the target voice, you could do that right here. But I'm going to leave that right there. Now, the conversion strength, I played around with this. You get very good results in between 30, 60, 80%. If you want to get more of the character of the voice you're converting to, then 80%, or even higher works very well. When you get it to 100%, sometimes it introduces some artifacts. And it says right here in the text that if you're changing languages to a non-English language, you might want to leave this lower so you retain more of the character of the consonants and things. But I found that it winds up basically blending the original voice to the target voice, and at lower settings, it still sounds more like the original voice. I'll show you an example of that shortly. I'll leave this at 80%. The vocal isolation tools are available here if you're loading in a sample that is not, completely dry, or it has a little bit of the background instrumentals in it. You can remove them here. Wouldn't really recommend it. I would say start with the good clean, dry sample, and you'll have much, much better results. So with this file in here,
someday the world will be.
Then you could go up to switch voice. There's at least a couple hundred of voices in here now, and you can filter them. So I was looking for similar voices to use for harmony background singers for the original. The original is a singer, Nina Hayes, who did the vocals for that Lander sound pack. Excellent vocalist. And we want to get something that's going to sound like a good support for Nina without being overbearing, but also that has some different characters, but just generally along that line. So airy pop vocal. And then you've got a wide variety that you could sample here or try out. Here's Lily.
I was listening to the ocean.
That would certainly work. Let's listen to Aylin.
You and me, eternity. That's how it's supposed to be.
Maybe too unique. I don't know.
Can't escape it. That's how it works.
I think Vanessa here is a really good choice. So let's go with Vanessa. And then now that you've got that, you do need to go down to the bottom of the page to convert. I wish this button was more up in this area. I guess they don't want you to quickly do that before you do all your settings, but there is a bit of scrolling to get down and hit this convert button. So once you hit convert, it will take a few seconds. Now this sample is 11 seconds long, and you'll see that it takes less than a minute, but maybe more than 30 seconds for it to do the conversion. In general, I would say that Audimee works better on these shorter phrases. So if you wanted to do conversion of an entire tune, I would do it in sections or by phrases. So the output is pretty impressive and it works really well, but it's not a plugin, and you do need to load all that stuff up into this website for this to work. So here's the output from that conversion.
Someday the world will be everything we dream.
Now let's compare Vanessa to the original from Nina.
Someday the world will be everything we dream.
So it retains the phrasing, but the vocal qualities that Nina has, that kind of unique quality of the lead singer, it's just different with Vanessa.
Someday the world will be everything we dream. Everything we dream. Everything we dream.
So I want to just do something and just try converting this to a male voice. So I'll hit switch voice again. Now one of the things that I've found is very helpful on here is to hit the heart in the upper corner when you find a vocalist or a vocal model that you really like, because it'll save time, because when you're on this select voice dialog, which comes up in different contexts here, you can go over and hit favorites here, and then it will pull up your favorite page. So I've chosen Marcus. He's got a great soulful voice.
See the crystal raindrops fall and the beauty of it.
Beautiful voice. So without changing the pitch, I'm going to just see what happens if we have him sing it in the same register with Nina Hayes.
Someday the world will be everything we dream, everything we dream, everything we dream.
Well, he's really stretching into the high register, but it really sounds like that's what he's doing. Now, that's probably not what we want to hear for that, but I think as a background, one of the things that I think sounds pretty good, at least for certain sections of a song, is to support a female vocal with a male vocal an octave down. You wouldn't mix it in particularly loud, but I'm going to go an octave down and then rerun this conversion.
Someday the world will be everything we dream, everything we dream, everything we dream.
So I was wondering how these vocal models are created and if they're using pro singers or exactly how they're sourcing the voices that they're using for the modeling. And I reached out to Audimee and asked those questions, and I got the reply that the individual vocal models that they're using are usually from a single singer, but there are ones in there that are a blend of multiple singers. Also, all of the singers are professional singers that have been paid to create the models. And they say they use licensed data from professional singers, so none of the models are actually coming from the user base. Okay, so with that information, let's go build out our harmony by switching to the harmony page. So you can't take your sample with you when you change pages. I wish you could, but that's not how it works. So I'm going to reload that harmony by just dragging it and dropping it in this box. And it's a good time to point out that Audimee supports WAV, MP3, OGG, M4A, and FLAC files, and up to 1 minute and 15 seconds. I would say shorter phrases, like I said before, is going to give you better results and a more satisfying experience here. Now, see, it did predict D major here, which is correct, despite what the sample said. So we'll go in here, choose our key. This is pretty important if you want to harmonize this really in an optimal way. And we only are choosing from major and minor. There aren't modes or things like in here, but of course you can work around that if you wanted to do something modal. Now I'm going to start by adding the first voice, and we'll click on the picture here. That loads into the select voice dialog. Interestingly, it did load into my favorites, and from the favorites I want to use Vanessa for the first voice. And in pop harmonies we can do parallel thirds and parallel sixths, and I think that it makes sense to support the lead vocal with the harmonies under it. So that's what I'm going to do here. And you can just click on what part you want, and I'm going to go a minus third right there. And then you can wait and it will load preview. That means it's sort of actually doing the conversion in the background. You do need to wait for that to complete before you can hear anything, but that will be our first setup. I also want to point out that there are some presets in here, and these will load up different preset harmony stacks for you. I played around with this, and honestly the way I'm approaching it, I prefer to just be able to control and put it the minus third and the minus sixth. But if you just want some quick kinds of presets, you can load these and they'll create those vocals. They'll basically add all the voices for you.
Someday the world will be everything we dream, everything we dream, everything we dream.
Now, if you wanted to tune the background vocal more tightly, you can click on this editor. And for example, if you wanted to do more hard pitch correction with that, let's just put the pitch correction to more hard tune it. Let's just go all the way up with that and just see what happens. It is nice that it recalculates the preview. I almost wish though that I could hit that button so I could make changes across several voices and then recalculate the preview. Right now, every time you make any sort of change, it will recalculate that. You have to wait a few seconds for it to figure it out. And it's worse if you have longer samples. But this tool is good enough that it's probably worth the wait. So let's listen to it. Actually, I will use this feature here where you could solo and mute individual voices, and I'll solo and see what it sounds like hard tuned.
Someday the world will be everything we dream, everything we dream, everything we dream.
Let's see how that sounds mixed in.
Someday the world will be everything we dream, everything we dream, everything we dream.
Sounds okay. I don't prefer that, so I'll allow some pitch correction, but not that much. Now we're going to go and add another voice. And so this time we're going to choose June, which I think is a great kind of a lot of body to that voice. I think that for our lower harmony, I think that's a great choice, and we'll choose the lower 6 for that one. And then once it recalculates that, we will play and see how this sounds.
Someday the world will be everything we dream, everything we dream, everything we dream.
Now, we're going to eventually download all these files and mix them in our DAW. So we might use some parts on some phrases or words, but already you can hear we're going to have some great material to work with. Now, the next voice I want to add is that lower supporting melody line an octave down. So we'll click here, we'll choose our favorite Marcus for that, and then here is where we can go down an octave by just clicking right there, and it will calculate that. Now, I can't mix this on this page, but of course in my DAW I'll be able to mix pan and everything. I will have all of these vocals a lot less loud than the lead line.
Someday the world will be everything we dream, everything we dream, everything we dream.
Now, the thing we can do is to take this to another level is we're going to have Vanessa and June switch and sing each other's parts. And so that way we've got those parts doubled. So I'm going to click here and add yet another voice. And in this one, I am going to change this to Vanessa. And then now I'm going to have her sing the 6th, and then right away I'll just add another one here and we'll choose June. See, having the favorites is really key to getting this workflow down, and I'll choose this to a -3rd and then let it calculate. In the intro to this video, this is pretty much what I previewed, and it's just pretty impressive that with this, level of ease, now of course you've got to go through, you've got to have taste, you've got to know what you're after, and this is a kind of a nice formula for a pop vocal. We've got all parallel harmonies here, but this works pretty well. So and it really actually sounds nice in this a cappella format.
Someday the world will be everything we dream, everything we dream, everything we dream.
So that's a lot of fun. And because we're able to preview it, I think we already know that this is stuff we can work with once we get it back into our digital audio workstation. Now, to get it to a point that you can use it, you still need to hit convert right here, which will convert it to the individual files. And that's what we're going to do here. And it does show 7 conversions are saved. So I've done 2 of these previously, and they are showing up here. You can favorite these, and I guess favoriting saves them to the library. So that's something I didn't even really understand about this library. So if you take the output and favorite, then you can save them, because the history is not preserved. When you go into a new session, this stuff will have disappeared unless you favorite it. I'm going to save that to library right away so we could see what happens. Now more will open it up so you can see all your individual parts here.
Someday the world will be.
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 That is really stretching Vanessa's range, but in the context of it, it sounds pretty good. So that's the workflow for creating harmonies. At this point, you can download the whole thing. So if you click on this button here, it will package it up, and it is thinking about it. And once it's got it packaged up, it will allow you to download that to your system. It's just did that here in the background for me. And that's going into my downloads folder. And then when you download it, you're going to see it in two different ways. So downloading this will give you the unprocessed, which is the individual tracks, probably what you want to work with in your DAW, but there is also a processed version. And the processed version says panning and time shift. So it adds a little humanization to it as well as panning to those. So these bottom ones get panned off more, which is why that sounds so good on the preview. So you can either use those directly as individual stereo files with the panning and a little bit of time shifting in there, or you can take the unprocessed versions, which are going to be time aligned and not panned. So it gives you two different things to work with. Both are equally useful. So with that, we've got that all complete. And then let's just take a look at the library here. Here we've got conversions, isolations, and harmonies. So that harmony setup here is saved. And I guess we could download that. I don't know if we could reload it, but I guess it's just saved so that you can then download it at a future time. So once you get something you like, you can save it here. And the same thing with convert vocals. If we wanted to keep one or some of these things here, like this is some other testing I did. If I save those, then go back to library and look at conversions, you'll start to see those show up here. So then from the library, in the conversions, if I click on one of these, it reloads that whole page, it appears. Not exactly sure, but as I work with this more, I will try to clarify how that page works. Now you'll see that when I come back to the harmony page, after I've clicked off of it, it's blank. So this is another thing that's just a little bit annoying, is that if you think you're in the process of working on one of these harmonies, if you're going to come back to this page and continue working with it, it doesn't do that right now. So the tools are great, and the experience overall is not buggy in my experience, but it isn't optimized for the ideal workflow yet. But anyway, it's still a very fun and great tool if these are the kinds of things you like to do with your productions. All right, so I want to give you a quick example of working with these tracks in a digital audio workstation. So I've loaded the original clip here, the original file from Nina Hayes from the Lander Lo-Fi Vocals sample pack. So it's in here on track 1.
Someday the world will be everything we dream.
So now I'm going to bring in, I used the processed tracks for this. I'm going to bring them in one by one, but the panning and time shifting, so it's got a little humanization and they've preset some panning. So let's find the one that is a third down from Vanessa. This was the first one we created, and we're going to drop it in here. And one thing that you'll want to do is to turn your time stretching off. So in time stretching, I'm going to set it to don't follow here. That's how it would work. And now we could see within the stereo spread that this one is set to be on the left side. Didn't really realize that before. What we're going to want to do is also turn that down a little bit. So I'm going to lower the volume of that just to get ready. Take it down about 6 dB.
Someday the world will be everything we dream. Everything we dream. Everything we dream.
Sounds really, really nice. So then the next one we had was June singing down a 6. Let's put that in there. And I do want to see how the panning is set for that. Interestingly, that panning is set the same. It's coming out here on the left. I want to set the time stretching to don't follow on that as well. And we'll lower that to -6 dB to get a better mix.
Someday the world will be everything we dream. Everything we dream.
All right, so then the next thing we had was Marcus. So let's see how that panning winds up. Now that winds up in the middle. So we're going to turn the time stretching to don't follow, and that fixes that.
Someday the world will be.
And let's lower that one as well. Maybe even more, because I don't want that to be quite as strong. I'm going to just quickly mute these other two just to see if we get that to support that vocal, but we don't want it to take over the melody.
Someday the world will be everything we dream, everything we dream, everything we dream.
All right, so then we've got two more parts. June down a third, and that's over on the other side. I'm not really sure how Audimee decides how to do this panning, but it did do it correctly for what we need. The first parts is panning to the left. Maybe it's just determining what we've put in there and then setting it appropriately. So we'll set this -6, and then the other one, we have Vanessa down a 6th, so we'll just put that one in here at the same time. And that's also panned intelligently over to the other side. Now, of course, we could adjust that panning, but mostly here I wanted just to show you how they show up when they come back into the DAW. And you'll see that these don't line up correctly, so we do want to make sure to turn the time stretching off in your DAW so that it doesn't try to make some kind of adjustment. And with that set, we should be able to hear all these parts.
Someday the world will be everything we dream, everything we dream, everything we dream.
So I put a little bit of Baby Audio Crystalline using the vocal medium preset. I added a little bit of the ducker and adjusted dry wet. I've got this on the inserts and I've got it on the bus right now, but normally you would use a reverb send for this kind of thing. I just wanted to hear it with a little bit of reverb, and so this is where we're at.
Someday the world will be everything we dream, everything we dream, everything we dream.
And if you look at where we started with this, it's just simply this one sample.
Someday the world will be everything we dream, everything we dream, everything we dream.
So Audimee did set me up with this account so I could try it out. If you'd like to try it out, there is a link, and that has been set up as an affiliate link, so I do get a little benefit from it if you were to actually sign up for one of the monthly plans. But you can try it with the free account or sign up for a month and see how it works. If it's not for you, you can cancel it quite easily. And that's Audimee. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think about this kind of tool in the comments. See you in another video very soon.